Today on Motherish, we are talking about embracing culture at the table, and we have a very special guest. She's Marina Chaparro, dietitian, author, and founder of Nutri Chicos, a bilingual nutrition practice helping families celebrate food, culture, and of course, connection.
We read the books, we bought the things. We thought we were ready. And then life took our plans and changed them. I'm Karen, I'm Victoria's mommy, and I work in tech.
And I'm Pamela. I have a baby boy named Ford, and I'm a journalist. And although we're both first-time working moms, we're actually pretty different.
And that's totally okay. Because we both agree that our most important work is raising our kids. We really need each other and can only get through this together. Welcome to Motherish Moments.
So welcome to Motherish. We don't have Karen today. She's busy working on another exciting project, but we have Marina Chaparro with us today. Welcome to Motherish.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
And we're going to talk about Nutri Chicos and all the exciting stuff you're doing with that and culture and table and food and everything we love here on Motherish. But why don't we start with our Motherish moment of the week? I was trying to explain, Marina, what our Motherish moment is, and it's like we've had so many different type of moments. I always tell her it's like a high or a low with one of our kids or our babies. So my Motherish moment this week has been Hispanic Heritage at school for Ford. And it's funny explaining culture and heritage to a 5-year-old. So today he got to wear a shirt of any of his parents' country, if they're, of Hispanic descent. I'm Peruvian. So I have bought this Peruvian t-shirt last year. It fits him again. So I put on the Peruvian t-shirt. And then once he got to school, and thank God I had packed an extra change of clothes, he realized all his friends were wearing Spanish soccer jerseys. And he's like, well, why am I not wearing a Spanish soccer jersey? I thought it was, Spanish. And I'm like, well, because I'm from Peru and you're Peruvian, you're half Peruvian, half Canadian. He's like, yeah, but we speak Spanish. So like, we're Spanish also. And I'm like, yeah, I guess, our heritage, we're Spanish. He's like, okay, I want to wear my Barcelona jersey. So I was like, I didn't have the strength to argue or get into this deep cultural breakdown or generational or whatever. I was like, you know what? If you want to be Spanish today, go ahead, baby. Barcelona, me cambié la camisa, I was a little like sad. I was like, okay, fine. Take off your Peruvian t-shirt, put on your, Barcelona jersey. He was fine, and it's just like, he's at this age where he wants to fit in like what his friends are doing, which is crazy to think about that a 5-year-old is already taking that into consideration. And I always want him to be happy, obviously. So I was like, you know what? If you want to be great,
pick your battles.
Yes. And everybody else was wearing, either like a Real Madrid or like, I think one was wearing like an Argentinian soccer jersey. Definitely soccer was the theme for this Hispanic heritage
Especially
celebration among the boys. Yes. And then all the girls, which this is definitely a topic for another episode about like the boy mom and the girl mom and all the activities, because I'm missing out. Like I need a girl. I need a girl.
Bueno,
Anyhow,
nunca
so
tarde.
why don't we welcome Marina to share her Motherish moment?
So I would say it was maybe 2 weeks ago that every Friday in my daughter's school, they have like a show and tell. And for some reason,
You have a boy, girl?
I have two girls.
Oh,
two girls.
Okay,
a
so
9-year-old and
you're
and a 7-year-old. And for some reason, I started to notice that my 7-year-old was like acting out, was like kind of getting nervous or crying. And initially, I didn't really know what that meant, but now, like, there's something going on. And then I talked to her. I said, "Sweetie, what's going on?" And then I started to kind of connect the dots. I was like, she's probably nervous about the show and tell, because this was like one of the first time that was happening. And they see me talk in public a lot, and they see me kind of do, my philosophy in life has always been do scary things. Like, even though they scare you, do with them anyway. And then my oldest daughter approaches her, and this was at bedtime, and she says, Alicia, it's okay to do hard things. It's okay to be scared. And it was one of those moments that I just saw me talking, and it was one of those small wins that I'm like, okay, we're doing this right.
Yeah,
we're
they're
doing this
listening,
right.
yes.
And so she kind of approached her and said, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay. Like, you got this. Like, I'm scared. And so she kind of like started to empathize. This is my oldest. And it was me. I was tired. I was like alone. I was like, oh my God. But that moment just meant, okay, Mom, this was a sign that we're doing things okay, there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
They listen.
They listen, and not only they listen, but they watch. And for me, that was, I've never talked, I mean, I've talked about what I do, but that just internalized, wow, they're really listening.
It's such a prideful moment, right?
It was that was one of my highlights in my life, to say, okay, we got this. They're getting that resilient mentality of saying, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not know what you're doing and just kind of do it anyway. So it was a very proudish moment.
I love that. One time it was in the car with Ford, and I'm big on religion. I want him to have like a good foundation, like faith-based foundation. You know, he's at the age where I take him to church, and kind of like, I don't want to go to church. And then one time we're in the car, and he was with his friend Carlota, and I think she was mentioning that she was afraid of something. And the same thing, he was like, you don't have to be afraid. You know, you have Jesus in your heart. And I'm like he's listening.
Yeah.
He's right there. Like every Sunday, he's picking something up. So it's nice to see. So welcome to Motherish officially.
So happy to be here.
I want to get to know all about your journey, and about, of course, Nutri Chicos and how that became, you know, this business model and this like concept, but also about your person. I think it's very important where you grew up in a border city between Ciudad Juárez and El Paso. And, you know, how did that influence you? What do you tell us about Marina, the little girl, and how that became into Marina Chaparro, the professional, the dietitian, and the author?
So this little girl was raised in the border town of El Paso, Texas, and Ciudad Juárez. So shout out to El Paso and Ciudad Juárez. And it's just a very unique place to grow up, because you're both Mexican and also American. So we have this ability to just switch. But more than that, I come from a family that really values education and really culture and bilingualism. Both of my parents are in education. They're kind of like hippie-ish and liberal. And every day we would actually go to school in Juárez. So I was born in El Paso. We lived in El Paso, Texas. But every day we would cross the border to go to a Montessori school in Juárez. And at that time, I mean, 30 plus years ago, it was like everybody was doing the opposite. Everybody who's in Juárez would go because it's the United States, it's opportunities. But my parents were really swimming against the current. And everybody's, you're crazy. What are you doing? And the response from my parents was, we want them to truly understand their language and to really have that foundation. So we would cross every day, and we would make lines back then were like an hour and a half to go back home. And it was just a really unique, because it was a Montessori philosophy. I absolutely love it. My kids are Montessori. And that was part of who I am. I'm bilingual, I'm bicultural, I can switch on and off. But really my nutrition journey, I think it just happened. I wasn't really planning on it. It really started when I was diagnosed in a hospital, age 16, and I was told, Marina, you have type 1 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
So at 16 years of age, sitting in a hospital bed, I was like, okay, what now? And really at that moment, my family's life really switched. And imagine, being Hispanic, being from the border town, it's like, tú eres diabética, y tú no puedes comer esto, and all these stereotypes that we all grew up.
And all these limitations you thought you were going to
that
have.
mentality of limitation. And so really my family, my entire family then developed diabetes. And I always say it's always a family approach. So that really started my why of wanting to help other families, initially with diabetes. Then I went to study in Boston, and I said, there's something here, because I wanted to help other families start developing a positive relationship with food.
Yeah.
Because
and also I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marina, because you're in this space, but I feel like, and I was having this conversation with my mother, who's last year was diagnosed with breast cancer, and definitely this last year has been a learning lesson for her in terms of and a conversation with me. I like to eat healthy. I like for her to eat healthy, my son. And I want her to start choosing to eat healthy for her own sake, to enjoy the process, to not make it seem, and this is where I was going to ask you, is why do some people, especially, I don't know if it's the older generation, think that eating healthy means letting go of your cultural favorites, right? Of seeing pero qué voy a, what am I going to eat now? What am I, does that mean I can't? So I feel like it's such a struggle for them to realize that you're so able to incorporate what you love and culturally what feels like your identity, but also be responsible and make decisions that are healthy for you.
Because, Pamela, I think we've all been told that rice is unhealthy, that tortillas is unhealthy. Like, how many times do we continue hearing this on social media, on the news? Even I, as a dietitian, we're trained to say, cámbiate al arroz integral, or change to that tortilla. Don't have that tortilla. Have instead maybe a cauliflower or a lower carb tortilla. Like, there's a reason why we've believed this, because this is the message that we've been hearing over and over again. But then you start to really understand the research and understand how culture, how that connection and that relationship truly impacts kids' health, kids' relationship, eating habits. And so when we start to realize that in order for people to eat this way, they need to enjoy it. Like, if you don't enjoy what you're eating,
yeah, right. Like, which I told my mom, and like, now
forget
I think
it.
she's getting it, but like, I don't want her to think, and I don't want people to think that eating healthy means being like, you're punished. Like, there's a way to navigate that healthy journey in a way that you're truly enjoying the process.
But let me tell you, how many times do we as parents say, hasta que no te comas tu arroz, no, hasta que no te comas tu brócoli, no te doy el postre. Until you finish that tomato, that carrot, you'll have that dessert. Subconsciously,
right,
what are we telling our kids? This is actually not that great. This actually sucks. Instead, this is delicious. So even subconsciously as parents, when we say those little things that, termínate todos tus vegetales, after that I'll give you a dessert, after I'll reward you. That's the mindset that for many of us we've had. So really, how do we retrain ourselves? How do we change that narrative that, actually, carrots don't have to taste like, broccoli doesn't have to taste horrible. And guess what? If you don't enjoy broccoli, don't have it. Have some strawberries, have some calabacitas. So again, that flexibility, and that you don't just have to eat brown rice, chicken, and kale. Because for a lot of us, it's like, you can have rice, you can have maybe a pork, you can have some beans, you can have some tomatitos, some calabacitas. So
I mentioned
that's
this
also
in
healthy.
one of the recent episodes about how smart and intuitive our children could be, especially when it comes to eating. Like my son, and I don't know if, again, they were listening to what we're saying, but he knows what calms him down. He knows what gives him energy. He knows what makes him act a little crazy. He knows what foods, what he's intaking or taking in, and the reaction that is going to cause. And I'm always so impressed, a 5-year-old, he knows. Like, and again, I'm obviously also telling him, like, we discuss food openly and we talk about it, like, because he's a great eater, whatever that, definition, whatever that means to you. But he eats very healthy. He eats a lot. He's a kid that needs energy, but he's also a kid that knows that, like, it's, he's not going to, he's not a big fan. He's not going to have a bowl of candy right before bedtime, or he's not going to have a bowl of candy before soccer, because he needs good strength and not, the sugar at that point. But let's talk about Nutri Chicos. How did that idea, how was that born? And what's your main purpose with that?
So really, Nutrichicos started when I was in Miami working in different pediatric hospitals here in Miami Children's back then. And then I started to notice a gap. And so back then, this was 14 plus years ago, there wasn't social media, and everything available was for adults. And oftentimes what I would do as a dietitian, like my Hispanic parents would come, I would print them a sheet of paper that was from healthychildren.org or American Academy of Pediatrics that was just translated, and I would give it to my parents. And my parents were like, okay, but when do I introduce the malanga? When do I introduce? And I was like, well, this is what we have. Like, this is what the research says. So I really started to notice this gap between kids, and it's not the same as adults, and how do we tailor it to Hispanics? Because we eat differently, we think differently. And that's when I really started to focus on Nutrichicos, and that's how Nutrichicos came about. And the idea was really helping families have a different philosophy towards food, one that really focuses on joy, because everything that you learn through joy, you're never going to forget, and connection. So instead of, that paradigm of have those carrots because they're healthy or they're going to make you strong or then you can have dessert, it's okay, You don't like them yet, but what do they taste like? What color are they? What if you help me cook? So really, how can we start using connection, joy, and balance?
For those who don't know what does Nutrichicos look like? Is it an online resource? Is it a book right now? Is it like more of like
It's all of the above.
Okay.
So it started as a private practice. I still continue to have my private practice, but it's a community. It's a community of parents that want to raise kids in a different generation without diets and without guilt. And it's still a private practice, so I still see families, but I also have my online.
Do you feel, and I'm always curious about this, that people, especially when it comes to seeking a dietitian, right, or nutritionist, and I'm not sure which is the right
dietitian,
but I think sometimes people are reactive instead of proactive, right? So you either wait for like a diagnosis for your child, or you feel like your child's like maybe like doesn't have enough energy, or they're maybe tired, or maybe they're like a little overweight. You know, when should a family seek
the moment you're starting to have
guidance?
Questions?
Okay.
The moment you're starting to have questions and you're like, I'm starting to think more about this, or like I'm noticing that Liam is doing this, and I'm kind of it's kind of bugging me. It's worrying me. That's why I'm here.
I feel like we should seek help very early on, like even before. Like it's kind of like a workout, right? Like I like to work out, I like to feel healthy. So, but I don't wait for me to be like unhealthy and overweight for me to like get a trainer, right? Like, why are we doing that with our food?
Well, I think maybe there's not a lot of us, or maybe it's harder to find people that, it's just like a therapist, right? Just who you feel comfortable with, somebody that's going to meet your goals. So really my best time when I see clients is the moment they're starting solids. So 6 months.
Okay.
When I see families at 6 months, I'm like, I got you. I'm never going to let you go, because then we can start really focusing on how do you shape this little human being, and how can I help you, parent, not freak out, not feel like you're a horrible parent and that you're doing everything wrong. And so then I'm there as a guide to say, you got this. And actually, this is what the research says. So let's do more of this A, B, and C. Or you know what? That's not really working for you, because every family is so different.
What's the best advice? Well, what do you tell parents at 6 months? Like, what's the most important thing they should incorporate? What should they not be giving their baby at 6 months? Because I know, again, as Latinos, we do a lot of the families do the purees, and they're literally like pureeing
everything,
chicken meat and like everything all together. So what if you could give us like top 4 tips?
Variety. So kids between 6 months to maybe a year and a half have something that's called the window of opportunity. Anything you give this baby, because all they do is that. I mean, their only highlight of the day is like, I get to eat. They're not walking, they're not talking. So really everything revolves around food. So this window of opportunity is the best time for parents to introduce taste, flavor, texture. So I'm all for anything that the family is eating. How can we adapt it? I'm not going to say, let's make this something differently for your baby. No, because eating is a family event. So variety, because what happens after a year and a half?
That's so important. So like if your family tends to eat like a lot of meat, like
carne, we know that a lot of animal products are going to be really high in iron. So we do focus on specific nutrients, mainly the iron, right? The healthy fats, because we know that a baby's brain reaches around 80% of their total maximum by the time they're 2 years of age. So what we say, the first 1,000 days or 2 years of age, your baby's eating habits could be already formed. Your baby's brains is around 80%. So there are specific nutrients like iron, zinc, choline that I'm obviously going to focus on, and we're going to find them in animal products a lot of the times, or if you like pork or meat or lamb or frijoles or lentejas. Nobody told me I could give my daughter beans. Like if family would have said, dale frijoles because that's what you eat, I would have been like, oh, thank you. Like I always say, you eat arepas? Perfecto. How can we modify it?
I'm at the point where I need like a bean sponsor, because that's all my son eats. Like arroz, frijoles, pollo, carne. That's
aguacate.
He could have that every day. His teacher the other day was like, if there's one child that could have rice and beans every single day,
I love it.
Sibber. I'm like, yes.
Iron, protein, fiber, potassium. So again, it's like when I see some of my clients, it's like, but nobody told me I could be giving my kid this. Yes, because that's not naturally what we hear. We hear the kale, we hear the baby cereal, we hear the blueberries. Don't get me wrong. I love those. But what if somebody told you, oh, what do you guys eat? You eat beans? You eat frijoles? You eat arepas? How can we modify it? You eat una carne mechada? How can we modify that? So you're not making 5 different meals. I think everything would change if you had that knowledge. And that's why I love when I see my clients at 6 months of age.
Marina, best advice for those dealing with a picky eater. I think a picky eater is a lot of moms' biggest nightmare. Yeah. First of all, let's start with, how do you not develop a picky eater? Like, what's the best, remedy for that? And if you already have one, because you're already like late into the game, can you fix that?
So picky eating could be genetic. We know.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. There are some studies to say that if you as a kid had a really hard time accepting textures, there's a genetic predisposition. Like some kids in my practice that I see are extremely sensitive to textures.
Right. So, by the way, I think it's also important you mentioned the texture and like the sensory seeking children. I don't think a lot of first-time moms, and I'm included in that group, really made the connection between the sensory, the seeking of the sensory and the different textures with the relationship with food and how important that could be.
Because sometimes kids learn through that sensory exposure, especially babies. That's how they're learning through their world. And so one, it could be genetic predisposition, right? It's not, we always say it's case, yo, it's my fault, I'm a bad parent. Like, let's relax. But what we do know is that variety, and exposure are going to really help that child build those connections. So we've known from research that if in those first years you expose kids to everything, there's a higher likelihood they're going to accept those foods by the time they're 6 years of age.
Okay.
So I think what my takeaways would be, it could be genetic, right? But we know that exposure really, really, really matters. So a lot of the times we say, oh, well, he doesn't like pineapples, so I just, I don't give it to him. Well, how's your child going to learn about pineapples if we only give them the food that your kid wants? So it's also behavioral, right? So feeding patterns. What do you guys do as a family? Are you making it about until you finish your plate, I'm going to give you this? So a lot of the times, unfortunately, what parents do, and it's with all the best intentions in the world, we could be hindering their curiosity. Because if you really think about it, like kids are very geeky. Kids are like very curious. And I always see when kids are sitting next to their parents, and parents are eating something differently, what do kids do? They're like, well,
let's talk about habits. Let's talk about habits, Maria. I think it's important also to give good advice, about what's something healthy we could be doing in terms of like, do we sit with our children? Should they have their separate time? Should be, what does the place should look like? What is a dining table? What's the best way to invite our children and to kind of include them in this like tradition, a daily tradition, which is sitting down to have dinner or lunch or breakfast.
So family meals matter so much, not just for eating habits, but we know that kids who have family meals 2 or 3 times a week tend to have better mental health, better IQ scores, better social development, a greater diet, lower risk of overweight. So just sometimes I even say, I don't care if let's stop focusing on the what, focus on the how you're eating. Are you eating as a family? Are you eating in front of the screens? Are you constantly fighting about food and having to say, come on, eat it, one more bite, or what? The how matters a lot, and we're not focusing on the how. We're hyper focused on, he didn't have the breakfast, or he didn't have the broccoli, or oh my God, he had too much rice, that we forget the bigger picture. And the bigger picture, habits, connection, relationships are going to happen when they're part of the meal. And ideally, if they can help you cook. Why?
Oh, wow.
Because if they help you cook, sensory exposure, right? So smell, flavor. I always say that sometimes parents, we make this mistake of, we want to introduce broccoli for their first time, and we're super eager. We take 30 minutes or more to make this beautiful recipe, and we put it on the table, and we're like, here. And your child has probably never seen broccoli. And our parent expectation is like, I just made this beautiful meal that took me an hour. You must eat it because that is what I've seen on social media. No. We need to start 3 steps back.
Right, involving.
Has he touched the broccoli? Has he smelled the broccoli?
No more broccoli season.
And guess
breaks
what?
My heart because
it happened.
When he was a baby, he was like, he loved it. He would play with it. I did baby-led weaning when he was young, when he was a baby, when he was 6 months. And I loved just watching him. It's incredible to see a little brain like try to grab a solid, or try to grab the banana, try to grab the avocado, trying to like at least like get anything in his mouth and just like licking it, or like, you know, chewing on it with like his little gums. But now that he's a little bit more aware of what he's eating and what he wants and doesn't want, and right away he's like,
independence.
Oh, no, I don't like that. If it has too much salt, he's like, oh no, this is like not great, you know. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a struggle, but it's definitely adapting to a new season in his like relationship with food, and me just trying to be supportive of that.
And guess what? That's totally normal. Okay. That's called the food phase. And so that's called the food jag. That's very common in kids. They'll eat one thing every single day, and then all of a sudden they'll say like, nah, I'm good. So what I tell parents like you is say, okay, sweetie, you don't like it yet. You don't like it now. Imagine if we started teaching our kids about food the same way we teach kids how to ride a bike. Same way. You get on one time, we never like, you need to get it right. Come on. Right. They fall. And we're like, you can do it. You can do it. All words of encouragement, that positive, crianza respetuosa, positive parenting. But we don't have that same approach with feeding, and especially when learning to like foods. We're like, you need to eat it now. And so if we start teaching kids, it's a process. So
yeah, and like you said, like riding a bike, like maybe that day wasn't a great day, and you kind of take a pause and you put it to the side, but then maybe in a few more days you come back and you try it again.
So say that to your kid and say, you don't like it yet, maybe another time. And you're going to present it another time.
And instead I'm always like, how am I going to hide the broccoli inside the rice?
And guess what? They're too smart, and they're going to notice it. It's like, Mom, I told you I don't like this.
He's like,
so it backfires.
Like, little broccoli that I hid in the rice.
So it backfires.
And you know, and then I also feel bad because I felt like I was being sneaky with him, which I was.
You were.
But like that, I'm so big on like him trusting me, and I'm trusting him, and having this like very transparent relationship with him. There's no secrets.
I love it.
Everything. So even that, I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have hidden the little piece of broccoli. Like,
but why do you think you had to hide it?
Because I want him to still have that as part of his diet. Like I still want him to take like the kale and the broccoli, and you know he's just.
But what if he just had some strawberries?
I know.
Or some cantaloupe, which has the same amount of fiber, still potassium, vitamin C, and again, it's seasons, right? So I struggle with that too. Like it's not just I struggle with that too, but I've learned to start teaching my kids that it's okay to not like it, but we're going to continue trying it. And so now my kids are too smart and say, Mom, I'm taking a break. Not now. And I'm like, damn you, Nutri Chicos philosophy. They know.
Now that you mentioned the Nutri Chicos philosophy, if we could just to close it off, if you could give solid advice as to like, listen, this is worth the fight. You should definitely have these items, you know, have your kid, teach them to like consume this, but it's okay if you like let go of this, right? Because I think motherhood is about choosing your battles and not like struggling so much with every single little thing. Like when it comes to nutrition, like what are the things worth fighting for and the things that you should just like let it go?
So really for me, my philosophy is less guilt, more joy, more connection at meal times. So it's really not going to be that one specific food.
Okay.
Because everybody's going to eat differently, right? And it might be broccoli for you this time, next time it could be tomatoes. But it's really focusing on the how you're feeding. Because if you're constantly pushing for food, if you're constantly giving them that pressure, it's going to backfire. They're not going to trust you. They're not going to like sitting down. So anything that it's giving you stress and you're feeling it's a push, it's not going to help you to have kids who enjoy food. And when they go to college, they're able to eat the broccoli, not because it's good for them, but because they had it every day at home and it was delicious and they cooked with you, and they're able to have the tostadas with aguacate, not because they're feeling guilty, because estoy pecando or this is bad, but truly because they saw you eat it, they're enjoying it, it's connected, it's part of their family. So it's less about the what. The what matters, of course, the nutrition, the first 1,000 days. But I think in general, I want parents to start focusing more on the how they're eating as a family. I don't want them to talk about food. I don't want you to start pushing and, no, they guys not, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Right? And then focusing more on how can you connect your kids with that positive experience, whether it's through cooking to the supermarket, through preparing the meal, to sitting the table, maybe 15 minutes with mom, with dad, with maybe one of the other, with grandma. 15 minutes is all they need.
I love that. Okay, so where could people find you, find more about Nutri Chicos?
So I'm on the socials at Nutrichicos. I also have a new podcast called Messy Bites, where I talk all about the mess of feeding kids, of the reality of what it is to be a mom in this day and age. So yes, check it out.
For moms who don't love to cook, and I'm like, just asking.
Just asking for a friend.
Asking for fun. There's a lot of guilt when it comes to that. I feel like, oh, should I be making these meals? You know, I have help, and I'm big on him having like home meals, so he does. But I think there's also a little bit of like, right? Not resentment, but a little bit of a battle there, internal battle for moms who are not, you know, don't find the kitchen a place that they enjoy.
I mean, I think there's guilt everywhere. I mean, whether it's, you know, preparing the food or giving him like prepackaged food, I think there's a lot of guilt, not just in one thing about being moms, and especially nowadays that we see how good we judge our parenthood in what our kids eat. So if your kid eat broccoli, that means you're a good parent.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like
the
sense of like, yes, my kid eats broccoli. Because we have this judgment.
I know. I'm like, you know, my Ford hates pizza and he hates burger. And he's like, boy, and then the dad's always like, why can't you just eat a pizza at a birthday party? Like, why do I have to go?
We have this idea. So I'm going to say it to my moms. Mom and dad, you are not a parent. You're not a bad parent if your child does not like broccoli. That might have nothing to do with your parental skills. It just means maybe he doesn't like it now, but he likes other foods, right? So let's stop judging other moms in how their kids are eating, because that doesn't tell you anything about their parenting skills. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was the example with Ford's dad is like what he thinks is a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. I'm like, okay, so he doesn't like to eat pizza. He doesn't like to eat sandwiches either. Like
the same here.
And he's always like, but like now we're going, you know, he's at a birthday party. We're like at a barbecue, whatever. He still wants like his grilled chicken, and he's like, he does love French fries. He likes fries.
And that's great, you know?
Like the perspective of one parent could be so different from the perspective of another parent. And the same thing happens with different moms, right? What you think is a great blessing in disguise is probably, you know, like a obstacle or like something that bothers the other parent.
So we all eat so differently. And I think it's time that we kind of like, let's relax a little bit on like the food guilt and just in general about the stress about food.
How important is it when it comes to kids watching where you're eating or your habits? Or, you know, I think sometimes people are not that aware, and I think it's important to kind of bring a little bit of awareness to how that is connected also.
Extremely. Just like we said in the Motherish moment, right? If they're seeing you eat something every day, eventually they're going to want to mimic that. So if I asked you, what do you remember your parents eating? What was at the table?
So funny. Soups. Like Peruvians we're big on soup. Like every meal starts with a soup.
You remember
I love
that?
soups. And it makes me feel like the emotional connection to having a warm soup. I don't care if it's 105 degrees in Miami. I want a nice soup before any meal. And for me, it's actually also like synonymous to a formal meal, like a special meal, you know? So it's funny,
Warmth, love, connection, joy. Because you saw your parents eat soup every day, enjoy it. Exactly the same is going to happen with our kids. If they see us enjoy the food, not because it's healthy, good, but really because we enjoy it and we have it, they're going to want to do the same thing when they grow up. So talk less, do more. Stop talking about this is the nutrient that, and then your brain, depending on the age, cognitively, they're not there yet. Like we would bombard them with information. I'd rather you just maybe involve them in the kitchen, talk about stories, talk about how you grew up, how they are relevant to your culture, where they grow, connection. And trust me, when they grow up, like we all become our parents, whether we like it or not, like we become our parents. They're going to bring them along with them throughout the years. So trust that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Marina. So nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Well, thank you, guys. See you next time at Motherish.